And joining us now from Miami is business leader Harley Lipman, CEO of Genesis 10, and someone who is active in normalizing ties between Israel and the Gulf states. And we should explain, Harley, that until recent years, it was, to a great degree, business figures like yourself who had to sort of underground carry messages back between these Gulf states and Israel. Talk a little about your involvement in that.
Well, I meet with leaders in the Persian Gulf area. I met with the foreign minister of the United Arab Emirates for a few hours alone, just one-on-one. I did the same thing with the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia, one-on-one for a few hours. They're incredibly gracious, very hospitable, and I also meet with their ambassadors in the United States and stay close to them. So I'm trying to help bring about an alignment of Persian Gulf nations with Israel against Iran and within the Western U.S. alliance, so to speak.
Right. So let's talk about that shifting alliance. There is now these reports of a possible non-aggression pact as a first step. Why take that kind of step rather than, for example, just restore diplomatic relations or initiate them?
Well, I think in the beginning you need to take small steps and work it through that way. They also have to manage the reaction within their own country, even though Qatar is an absolute monarchy with a population of 300,000, it's about the size of the city of Buffalo. But I think what the real significance here is this. It's really a question. So is this a tactical decision where they are looking to really get to Washington but know the road to Washington is through Jerusalem, Netanyahu, the Jewish lobby they think of, and be friendly and nice to them? Or is this really a new strategic realignment where Qatar is more aligning with the Persian Gulf nations with Israel against Iran, which is something the United States administration has been working on for a long time. Pompeo is very active in this arena, and they're making a lot of good progress here.
Right.
Or it could be both, by the way. It could be both.
Absolutely. Generally, these things are a mixture. Let me ask you, there is a lot of discussion now in the here in Israel and elsewhere about the Netanyahu government taking a step such as annexing Jewish settlements in the West Bank, possibly as part or even not the Trump peace plan. How much would a step like that impact on this attempt to build these relationships with the Gulf states?
Well, it'll slow it down somewhat, but it's not going to stop it. The greater strategic goals of the Persian Gulf nations is a normalizing relationship with Israel at some point. They say Israel's not going anywhere. They're also very frustrated with the Palestinians. They feel the Palestinians can't keep saying no. And they've urged the Palestinians to engage the Israelis in negotiations, that this is just the beginning, and talk to them and see if you can work something through. And the fact that the Palestinians just say no, 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 the Arab League says no, that's more a formality. I think they've grown weary of that.
And briefly, Harley, you mentioned that sometimes these governments may have to go a little slow, concern over public reaction. What has been your view on the ground from people there in these Gulf states about possible relations with Israel?
Well, you know, it's really hard to figure out, to get those surveys done accurately in that part of the world. So according to the surveys, the populations are still very anti-Israel. So you have to be very mindful of that, because we have to be careful to be aligned with the leadership there that's very forward-thinking. So it's going to take some education, and it's going to take work on behalf of the elites and the leadership. There are other people and other journalists who claim that, just like the leadership, the people have grown weary of the Palestinians constantly saying no and not really engaging in serious discussions. And I think it's incumbent upon not only the Palestinians, but Israel, both to be engaged in this. And I think if they see what the Persian Gulf leaders tell me is that if they see progress.
Right. Harley, thank you. That's all we have time for. Thank you for joining us on The Rundown. We'll be right back.